Hello and welcome to my manga reading log for October 2023. And in this month I read 25 volumes, which is 4 volumes less than the month before. Somehow, even though there's like one extra day. But anyway, let's get on with this reading log and go over the 25 volumes that I read in October. The first one being Love and Heart, Volume 8. I do like how dark the series is and how messed up it is. But I don't like this couple, and I don't want this couple together. I think there's only 2 volumes left. I think there's only 10 in total. I'm going to read the last 2. But depending on the ending is depending on whether I'm going to end up keeping this in my collection or not, because I kind of need space. And if this ends in a way where these 2 are together, I'm probably going to end up removing it from the collection. But I will read the last 2, because I do want to know how it ends. And I do want to know these the thing that happened when he was a kid that started all of this. Because I think we're going to get into that in the next volume. But yeah, I ended up giving this 3 stars. And that was my first read of the month, Love and Heart, Volume 8. Next, my second read of the month was The Ancient Megaspike, Volume 18, which I gave 3.5 stars. This, I've recently started the season 2 of this anyway. I've watched part 1, which covers this current arc. Now, this is 18 volumes into the series and quite a long way into this college arc as well, so I can't really talk much about what's happening without a lot of spoilers. But I do like The Ancient Megaspike. It's a slice of life magical fantasy set in the real world and modern times. And this arc, as Chisei is attending an alchemist college and making friends with the alchemist there, and things happen and things go out of control a bit, and I think we're coming to the end of this current arc soon. Not necessarily she's going to leave the college, but the current thing that's going on now, I reckon, will be coming to an end soon. Yeah, I do like The Ancient Megaspike, and I did really enjoy Season 2 Part 1, and I'm looking forward to watching Season 2 Part 2 as well. So yeah, that's The Ancient Megaspike, Volume 18. I did like this one, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things turn out for these characters in this arc. Next, I read on... Oh wait, I read that on the 2nd and the 3rd. It actually took me 2 days to read that. On the 4th and the 5th, it took me 2 days to read this one as well. This is probably why I read less this month. I don't know what was going on at the beginning of this month, but I was only managing to get half a volume read a day. But anyway, on the 4th and the 5th, I read Kaguya Bat 7, which I gave 3.5 stars. It's a high school romance with some basketball elements. I like this series. I also like that this volume had less of this character in it, despite him being on the cover. He was only really in the last couple of chapters, I do believe, from what I remember. Because I'm not the biggest fan of love triangles. I do like this series, but love triangles have never been one of my favourite tropes. Though I was kind of glad that he was not in this volume as much, and it concentrated more on these 2. So yeah, there's more basketball games going on. Graduations are happening. She's going to be graduating soon, and yeah, I enjoyed this volume. And looking forward to the next volume, because she is graduating soon, but obviously he's not, because he's a year below her, and how things are going to go from there with her in college and him still in high school. So yeah. Next up, on the 6th, I read The Dragon's Betrothed Volume 2, which I gave 3.5 stars. I like this one more than I like Volume 1. I think the main reason I wasn't as keen on Volume 1 is because my expectations for it were too high. I love Therapy Game, it's one of my favourite BLs, and because of my love for Therapy Game, and this being by the same creator, my expectations for it were a bit high, and I ended up being disappointed by it, but I didn't hate it or anything. And because I knew what to expect now going into Volume 2, I did like it more. We follow this guy who's recently moved back to his town he lived in as a kid. And he is, this is a dragon god, and he's found out that he is betrothed to the dragon god due to, I think it was due to a promise his grandmother made. He's now living in his house, and he was, in the first volume, he was trying to get rid of him, and yeah, I know the series isn't complete, but I also think it's currently on hiatus, because I think the author is currently concentrating more on writing more therapy game, so this is kind of on the back burner. And I do believe she is planning to continue it, but I think therapy game, because it is her more popular series, has priority at the minute. So maybe after that's finished, she will go back to this one. But yeah, I did enjoy this volume more than I did the first one. I actually read quite a lot of BL this month. It was a BL heavy month. Next up, I read my monthly Red River on the 7th, which was volume 24. I gave this 4 stars. I'm enjoying this series still, and there's like 4 volumes left. Yeah, 4 volumes left. This volume ends the current arc, and I'm pretty sure the last 4 volumes are like the last arc, which is gonna like end everything off and like tie everything up and get everything sorted out now that this current thing that's going on has ended. And also, this volume contained a naked river fight between Ramus and Kyle, where they were fighting each other in a river, absolutely naked, because somehow their clothes fell off. So yeah, that part was interesting. You don't see anything other than their butts. It's obviously, despite the mature content, you don't actually see any penis. Yeah, it was quite a nice naked river battle, that. So yeah, I can't really say much more this far into the series. I will say it is good. Next, I read the first volume of Daytime Shooting Star, which I read on the 8th. It took me 2 days to read this one as well, apparently. I read this on the 8th and the 9th, and I gave it 3.5 stars. So yeah, now that I've finished Inobaka, I was reading 1 volume of Red River and 1 volume of Inobaka a month, like back to back. But now that I've finished what I own of Inobaka, I've switched over to reading this instead. So I'm now reading Red River and 1 Red River and 1 Daytime Shooting Star a month. And then once I finish Red River, which will be like 4 months' time, I will then switch that to Oku, and I'll be reading 1 Daytime Shooting Star and 1 Oku a month. So yeah, I read the first Daytime Shooting Star, and I quite enjoyed it. It's by Miki Yamamori. It's a high school romance about this girl who moves from the country into Tokyo, and it's her first time in a city. She's used to country life, and she's trying to make friends in this new school, and she meets this guy who is her homeroom teacher, and then she also meets this guy who is her classmate, and then a girl who was a bit of a... She was like quite manipulative and tricking her. Yeah, I enjoyed this first volume, and I did like the main character. I did like this guy, and the teacher is the teacher. Yeah, I do know who she ends up with in the end. I have looked that up. I like spoiling myself. It's weird, but I do. So yeah, I am happy with the person she chooses in the end anyway. So I'm looking forward to continuing reading it and probably continue to enjoy it. But obviously it will be a slow process because I'll be reading 1 volume a month unless I speed up at some point or other. Next, on the 10th, I read the first volume of ES Eternal Sabbath, and I gave this 3.5 stars. This was an interesting one. This is a seinen series, which is by Fuyumi Soyo, who wrote Mars. It's about this guy. He's basically immortal, and he's known as an ES, which is an Eternal Sabbath And he has the ability to like enter people's minds and like mess with their head, make them see visions, alter their memories, make them see certain things. So he's basically just going around living his life doing this, like getting into certain friend groups, getting into certain people's families by altering their memories to make them think that he is a part of the family or he's been friends with them for a while. And then there's this woman. Like the first chapter is like chapter 0, and it kind of sets everything up. And in chapter 0 he comes across this guy and he makes him think he's on fire and has been severely burned. And then this woman who is a scientist has been called in to kind of help figure out what's going on with this guy. And she can't like come to terms with what has happened to this guy and why he's experiencing burn symptoms despite not actually being burnt. And that's when she comes across ES. And she kind of learns about him, and then some more stuff comes into play in the later chapters too, which I won't spoil. But yeah, I really liked this one and I thought it was interesting. I didn't mind the art, although some panels, the characters' eyes are quite far apart. I think that might just be the author's art style though. But yeah, this one's definitely enjoyable. I have the complete series. I don't know if I'll be doing this one like one a month or whether I'll be reading this one more frequently with it being shorter with only 8 volumes. We'll see. As of right now, I have only read the first one, but I did really like it. Next, I read on the 11th, I read Loving Muku Volume 2. I gave this 4 stars. This is just a cute slice of life manga about a dog. Her name is Muku and she lives with her owner who is called Mr. Kamatsu. And it's just the happy daily life of Muku and Mr. Kamatsu. It's just about the things she gets up to and the trouble she causes whilst living with her owner. And it's just a very cute manga. The story, it's episodic. Just cute little chapters about Muku being a dog, and there's some colour pages in there. Yeah, and Muku is cute. Muku is funny. I like Muku. I'm pretty sure these are based... The stories themselves are fictional, but I'm pretty sure they are based off an actual dog and an actual owner, who are also called Muku and Mr. Kamatsu. Obviously, the events of the manga I don't think actually occurred, but I think the characters are based on those actual people. I think there's an anime for this one too, like the episodes are like 5 minutes long or something like that. So like bite-sized episodes, so maybe I should check it out. I think it's on High Dive though, and I don't have High Dive. But yeah, Muku loves to pee a towel. She calls it peewing because she's trying to imitate her master, who's a grass grower. Where if you want cute short stories about dogs, if you like dogs, if you want cute short stories, then I'd recommend this one. It's also a good one to recommend to children too, as it's recommended ages 8+. Although I do believe children younger than that would probably be okay with it too. It's very just innocent short stories about a dog. Next up, I have read on the 12th. I read Delinquent Daddy and Tender Teacher Volume 1, which I gave 4 stars. I thought this one was super cute. It's about this guy who is a teacher, and he went to high school with this guy, and he's recently found out that this little boy is in his class, and that his father is the guy he went to high school with. And this boy is having like some... He's recently lost his mother and started living with his dad, and he's having some problems adjusting and like bonding, and this guy kind of starts coming around and helping them and like clean up the house and like help them get a bit closer to each other. And it was just very cute. There was one explicit scene in the extra chapter, but the main story was like very wholesome, and yeah, it's a very cute one. I think Volume 2 is the last one, but I think there's also a sequel series which has about 4 volumes, so I don't know if we're going to be getting that one in English, or whether it'll just continue as like 3, 4 and so on, like kind of like what Seaside Stranger did. But yeah, I think it's a one where the first 2 volumes were so popular that she decided to do more. But it's a very cute, sweet, wholesome BL. If you want one of those, I would recommend this one. Next up, on the 13th, I read Tsubaki Chao, Lonely Planet, Volume 4, and gave this one 4 stars as well. In this volume, where there was a trip, I think, to Kyoto, the majority of this volume, I think up until like maybe the last couple of chapters, are spent on a work trip to he goes on a work trip to Kyoto and she tags along with him. But yeah, I still continue to enjoy the series. It is an age gap, obviously, but I'm not really bothered. As long as the younger character is at least 16, which she is, then age gaps don't really bother me. And I do really like this one. I like Miki Yamamori. Obviously, this is the second Miki Yamamori that I read this month, and I continue to enjoy this one. Next, I read... What did I read next? Cherry Magic Volume 8 on the 15th, which I gave 3.5 stars. Yeah, it continues to be wholesome and cute, and this couple is great. I can't really say much about, because some stuff happens in this volume and it's kind of spoilery. So I can't really say much about it, but yeah, it continues to be great. If you like Cherry Magic stays good. Yeah. It's a cute, wholesome office romance. The characters are I think in their 30s. And obviously he has powers where he can, because he's a virgin at 30 years old, he gains the ability to read the minds of whoever he touches, and he finds out that his coworker likes him, and he doesn't know what to think of it at first, but then he starts to like him back. Yeah, I can't really say much more about what happened in this particular volume without spoiling it, though. Yeah, that was Cherry Magic Volume 8. And then I read Volumes 16 and... No, I read Volumes 8 and 9 on the 16th and 17th of My Love Mix-Up, which I both gave 3.5 stars. So I just pop these down here together since they're the same series. I really like this series. It's another wholesome BL one. It's quite amusing and funny as well. And this, it wasn't too long, only 9 volumes. It's come to an end now. Yeah, I did think the ending was quite satisfying. Even with the, thing that happened in the final volume, which turned out to, not be a thing. But yeah. It's a cute, wholesome one. It's funny. I like the characters. The characters do grow throughout the relationship. It started on a misunderstanding, but they ended up getting there in the end. Very good series. Would definitely recommend it. And I think that's the only series I actually completed this month. I like completing series. It's an accomplishment. Anyway, next, I read on the 18th, I read Volume 2 of Boys Abyss, which I gave 4 stars. This series is messed up. This volume is messed up too. I don't want to spoil anything, but in the first volume, he's with this idol. He lives in this small town in the middle of nowhere. His wife sucks. His older brother's abusive. His mother is worked to the bone taking care of his older brother and his grandma who has dementia. So he has to get out of school and get a job as quickly as possible to help her out financially so she can take a break. But his best friend's abusive as well and manipulative, and it's his company, his father's company, that he's going to have to be working for because his mother needs the money. He can't really get out of it. Anyway, so his wife basically sucks and he lives in a small town, and he comes across his other friend, not the one who's going to work for him. His other friend, this girl. Introduces him to like this idol who he kind of starts liking, and then she moves back to this town. I think she lived there originally, and starts working in a convenience store, and she runs into him, and things happen with her in the first volume. That pop idol isn't in the second volume very much. She is in it at the end, but she's not a big part of the second volume. We are introduced to a new character who is this guy, who is the boy, I forget his name. I'm just calling him the boy. Reiji. We are introduced to a new character who is Reiji's homeroom teacher. And well, I quite liked her at first. Like, she was trying to help him out, get him back on his feet, telling him that he can, like, if he needs help, she'll be there to, like, support him. And then stuff happened which made me not like her anymore. And I'm not going to say what it is because it's massive spoilers, but yeah. It was messed up. It was completely unacceptable, and it happened. And I actually think it happened twice now that I'm thinking about it. So yeah, if you're not into, like, messed up, completely, like, shocking, like, trigger-heavy series, I would recommend you not read this one. It's kind of a bit Shuzo Oshimi-ish. But yeah. Other than the main guy, he's made mistakes, but he's a kid, and he's not a bad guy. Everyone else is a bit of a twat. Other than his friend. The girl with the glasses, she's alright as well. Other than the main character and her, everyone else is kind of a twat. But I enjoy it. I like dark, depressing stuff. Next, I read on the 17th. I read After We Gaze at the Starry Sky, which I gave 3 stars. This is another BL. It's about this guy who, I think, what is he, a designer? He's a designer who is in a wheelchair, and he like idolizes this guy who's a photographer who specializes in taking pictures of the night sky. And he works on some, like, designs for this planetarium, so he's invited to the opening, and he's invited to the opening too because his pictures were used in the designs, and they kind of meet each other and then sort to like each other. But it wasn't the best series. Like, it was okay. I think there's a volume 2 because it says volume 1 on it, but I can't see. I don't actually know for sure, because this felt like it could have just been a one-shot. Again, there's nothing explicit unless you read the side story at the end. But yeah, this one was just okay. Like, things happened. It was a bit, like, the relationship just wasn't developed that much, I don't think. They got together about halfway through, I would say, and then some things happen. Like, they fight a bit. They get back together, and then it ends. So yeah, I just don't think the relationship was developed that well. It was okay. I don't know if I would pick up another volume, though. But it was definitely readable. It wasn't terrible or anything like that. Next, I read I Can't Reach You Volume 6, which I gave 3.5 stars. This was a cute volume. This volume centered on Yamato and the other guy, Kakeru, when they were children. This, like, 90% of this volume took place in the past when these two were kids, and what went on when they were children, and obviously you got to see a lot of the backstory because of that, and how their childhoods were, how they met, how Yamato first developed feelings for Kakeru and why, and yeah, it was a good volume to see them as kids and have that backstory. Obviously there's been no development between them in the present day, because this volume was set or mostly set as when they were kids. I think it was only like the last chapter. Yeah. This part here was back in present day, and all this was when they were kids. You know, I actually really like this volume and seeing all the backstory and stuff. And I think we're kind of starting to get a bit somewhere with Kakeru at the end as well. Next, I read volume 3 of Hino and Kaguya. I read this on the 21st and I gave it 3.5 stars. I think this is the last BO I read this month. But yeah, another cute one. I like this a lot more now than I did in the first volume. I thought volume 1 was okay, but I do actually quite like volume 2 and 3 quite a bit more. I haven't read the original light novel or anything. And I don't really plan to read the original light novel either, but I'm enjoying reading the manga. It's a bit, obviously it's in the world of Sasaki and Mino, it's the obviously side characters from Sasaki and Mino, so you do see Sasaki and Mino a little bit in this, but it's obviously concentrated on these two, and the relationship is a bit different. I do like it. And I'm looking forward to picking up more. Obviously, obviously, yeah, he's trying to get him he's liked him from basically the beginning, but he doesn't really have any feelings for him back, so he's kind of trying to get him to like him back, which is different to Sasaki and Mino a bit. Oops, almost dropped that. Next, on the 22nd, I read Game Between the Suits Volume 4, which I seem to have forgotten to put the number down for, and I gave this 3.5 stars. I do like the steamship title, it's one of my favourite ones. And this volume we're kind of getting somewhere now. Like, at the beginning it was all just a game, it was all just sex basically between these two. They were doing it because they liked each other's body, they liked the sex, they thought it was good. But now she's starting to get feelings for him, and I'm not sure about him yet. But we have had more backstory of him in volume 4 and what he used to be like, and he is changing a little bit. And yeah, something happened at the end of this volume that I'm wondering what's going to be going on in volume 5 and how this is going to be going forward. I won't say because obviously spoilers. But yeah, I'm curious as to what's going to be happening in volume 5 after the end of this one. But yeah, I do like this one, and there's starting to be some more chemistry between the leads than there was in earlier volumes. Yeah, I like this volume. Obviously, it's not the healthiest relationship, but it's fiction, so. And next up, I read this one. I think took me 2 days, 23rd and the 24th, to read Manga Boy Volume 3, which I gave 3.5 stars. Manga Boys is just a bit of fun. It's classic 90s stuff. It's dramatic, it's comedic, it's over the top, it's basically a classic 90s shoujo. It's very enjoyable to read and it's fun. Some of the scenarios are like very out there, but it's definitely a fun read and one that I enjoy. How many omnibuses of this is there going to be? Because I think they're 1.5 in ones, and I think there's 8 volumes originally, so maybe 5, and they do the last one as like a 2 in 1 rather than a 1.5 in 1. Otherwise, they're just going to have like a half volume left, and I don't think they would do that. But yeah, we had some progress in the relationships and some fun antics, and yeah, Manga Boys is just a bit of fun. I do like it. I think there's like going to be like at least 2 more, I do believe. Then I read, on the 25th, I read volume 12 of Now, which is, I gave 3.5 stars to. I give a lot of stuff 3.5 stars, which would be like a 7. I like this volume because this volume had kind of a Nanaka focus on it, where we have Nanaka learning to use her sword and learning to control it properly, not have it completely drain her blood, and I like that we had more of a Nanaka focus and that Nanaka actually got to do something and like fight some demons by herself without any help from Mao or anyone else. And then in this storyline. And what was it? Oh yeah, and then stuff's happening with Byoki at the end as well, which we're wondering what's going to be what Byoki's going to be up to in the next one. But yeah, I enjoyed Mao, and this was a good Nanaka volume. Next, on the 26th, I read Sara at the End, volume 27, which I gave 4 stars. I like this volume. This volume had quite a lot of reveals happening in it. Like, revolving around what's going on and what the plans are going to be going forward. We've learned a bit more about, like, Shikami Doji and, like, Goran's plans, and that he's been planning basically since he was 16, and how it's all going to come together and what needs to be done to achieve these plans, and whether that everyone's going to be on board with it. And yeah, this was an interesting volume, and I'm definitely intrigued to find out more about whose side Yu's going to take, and whether they're actually going to go through with these plans, and what's going to happen to the vampires. Because, like, the vampires are, like, a big part of this, and, like, the serifs. What happened to Shikami Doji? Who's pursuing him? Like, he's, like, who could possibly pursue him, and, like, and the stuff with Saito as well was quite interesting. And what he's going to be doing, and yeah, it's very good. It's definitely a lot going on. And I'm pretty sure the author has had all this planned out from the start, if you read, like, the prequels and stuff. It's very interesting to see it unfold. Next, I read Volume 9 of Prince Freya, which I read this on the 27th. I gave this 3 stars. Like, this one is kind of... I like the previous arc more, the one with... I forgot her name. But I like that arc quite a lot. This arc so far isn't as good. There's going to be, like, a big battle. There's new characters introduced. There's too much Julius. And then, yeah, I still enjoyed it, but not to the extent as I liked the previous arc. With the Edda, I think her name was. I liked Edda's arc more than I'm currently enjoying this one. I am wondering who this, like, new character is at the end, though. Yeah, Freya. I like Freya and I like Alexei, but I don't like Julius. I really don't like Julius. And then there's more with the... I've forgotten his name, but he's in this volume more as well. The, like, Sea Guardian King. Yeah, that's Prince Freya. 3 more left. On the 28th, I read volume 11 of Love Sakari, which I gave 4 stars. This is the penultimate volume. The next volume, I do have the next volume, I haven't read it yet, is the last one, and the series is over, and I really like this series. I like Eri, she's a great main character. I like her relationship with Ome. I like the side couple as well, who had a bit of this volume, and also the previous volume had a bit more revolving around them as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the ending. Not that I don't already know what happens, because I've already looked it up, but I'm still looking forward to actually reading it rather than just reading about what happens. Yeah, if I really love a series, I'm gonna look up spoilers, because that's just what I do. And on the 29th and the 30th, I read My Coworker Has a Secret, Volume 2, which I gave 3.5 stars. I thought the first volume was better. I did like the second volume, but I found the first volume to be more funny than the second one. It's not a high school. It's an office romance josei series. It's just 2 volumes long. It's a nice short read about a girl I think she's in her 20s or 30s, who is obsessed with this musical actor, and she's trying to keep it a secret because one of her co-workers said that they hate fangirls, and so ever since she's been keeping it a secret. But then this guy, who is her new co-worker, ends up finding out after she eats his lunch off a park bench, and she starts talking to him about it, not realizing that he's now her co-worker. And yeah, this volume, I said I like this volume, but I like the first volume more. So yeah, there's a nice cover page there. And lastly this month, I read, on the 31st, I read Suichi, which I gave 3 stars. Like, I like Junji Ito most of the time, but Suichi isn't my favourite character. His stories are never been my favourites. They're kind of a bit more comedic than some of his other ones, but he's kind of just like this creepy kid. I think he's about 12, 13 years old, and he lives in this town with his mother, his father, his grandfather, and his older brother and sister, and there's his cousins come to visit in a couple of the stories, and he's just like a creepy kid who like curses people and messes around and like tries to scare people. But yeah, and then does some strange stuff too. But I read this for Halloween because it's like the only horror I had on hand to read for Halloween, so yeah, it's the only horror I read this month. It was the only horror I read last month, despite it being Halloween month, because it's the only one I had. So I saved it for Halloween. But yeah, it's obviously, I thought it was alright, but I say Suichi's never been one of my favourites. I did recognise some of the stories from the anime, like the cloth teacher one and the one with the room, the 4-layered room, what's it called? And then the one with the model as well. Or in the 2 different animes. Although Suichi's beloved pet wasn't in here, and I think that was in the anime. But yeah, that's Suichi. I read it for Halloween. It was alright. I knew from the start this was never going to be my favourite Junji Ito collection because it is Suichi. I am looking forward to his next collection though, because it has the town of no roads in it, or the town of too many roads. The one where they have no privacy and people just walk through their houses. That one, I like that episode at the anime, so I am looking forward to reading the original story for that one. So yeah, and that is everything I read for the month of October. Not as much horror as like could have been for it being October, but I read one for Halloween, so yeah, I actually have a couple more horror available for November. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and that will be it for this month, and I'll see you for another video, either a haul or if I do something else. And yeah, hope you enjoyed, and bye bye.